The bridge of the alien ship Serenity of Stars was filled with panic. Commander HFY pressed his four hands against the control panel as alarms blared around him. His blue skin had turned pale with fear. Through the large windows, he could see his fleet burning in space. "How many ships do we have left?" he asked his crew. "Only 12 out of 60, Commander," replied his officer. The young alien's voice shook as he spoke. "The Devourers destroyed the rest." HFY closed his large eyes. The Devourers were a nightmare that came from the dark parts of space. They ate everything in their path. They had already destroyed 15 peaceful worlds in the past year. Now they had come for his people. "Send out a distress call on all channels," he ordered. "Maybe someone will hear us." Far away in another part of space, Captain Jake Morrison sat in his chair aboard the human ship UEC Defiance. He was drinking coffee and reading reports when his communications officer spoke up. "Captain, I'm getting a weird signal," said Lieutenant Commander Lisa Brooks. She had short brown hair and wore the blue uniform of the Earth Defense Force. "It's not in any language I know." Jake set down his coffee cup. He was a tall man with gray hair and kind eyes. He had been fighting in space for 20 years. "Put it on the main screen." The message appeared as strange symbols and sounds. Dr. Peter Hayes, their language expert, worked quickly at his computer. He was a thin man with glasses who loved solving puzzles. "I think it's a cry for help," Peter said after a few minutes. "Something about creatures called Devourers attacking peaceful people. They're asking anyone who can hear them to help." Jake stood up and walked to the big window that showed the stars. He thought about what to do. Earth had only been in space for 50 years. They had never met these aliens before. But someone was asking for help. "Lisa, get me Admiral Clark on the emergency channel," he said. Admiral Susan Clark was the leader of the human space fleet. She was a tough woman who had worked her way up from a simple soldier. Her ship, the U.S. Liberty, was the biggest and strongest ship humans had ever built. When Jake's message reached her, Admiral Clark was eating dinner in her private room. She listened to the alien distress call 3 times before making her decision. "All ships, this is Admiral Clark," she said over the fleet radio. "We have received a call for help from unknown aliens. They are under attack by something called the Devourers. I am ordering the entire fleet to their location." Chief Engineer Ryan Cooper was working in the engine room when he heard the announcement. He was a big man with oil on his hands and worry in his heart. "Admiral, are you sure about this?" he said over the radio. "We don't know anything about these aliens. What if it's a trap?" Admiral Clark understood his worry. But she also knew that if someone was crying for help, humans had to try to save them. It was just how they were made. "Ryan, if we turn away from people who need help, what kind of humans are we?" She replied, "All ships jump to the coordinates now." The human fleet was not beautiful like the alien ships. Human ships looked like flying fortresses made of thick metal and heavy weapons. They were built to take damage and keep fighting. Earth was a dangerous world, and humans built everything to survive. When the 20 human ships appeared near the alien battle, they saw something terrible. Alien ships floated in pieces throughout space. The Devourer ships looked like giant insects made of metal and flesh. They were feeding on the remains of the destroyed fleet. Commander HFY could not believe his eyes when the human ships appeared. These new ships were so different from anything he had ever seen. They looked rough and scary, but they had come to help. "Unknown ships, this is Commander HFY of the Galactic Council," he sent a message. "Thank you for coming, but you should run. The Devourers are too strong. They have destroyed everything we had." Captain Morrison heard the message and smiled. He had been in many fights before. He knew that sometimes the best way to help was to fight. "Commander HFY, this is Captain Morrison of Earth," he replied. "We humans don't run from bullies. Tell your people to stay back and watch how we handle things." The Devourers noticed the new ships and turned to attack them. They had never lost a battle before. Every species they had fought had run away or been destroyed quickly. These new ships looked small compared to their giant biovessels, but as the first Devourer ship moved toward the human fleet, something unexpected happened. Instead of running or trying to hide, all 20 human ships turned toward the enemy and began moving forward. They were not running away. They were charging straight into battle. Admiral Clark's voice came over all human ship radios. "All ships. This is Clark. We came here to save these people, and that's what we're going to do. Show these Devourers what happens when they mess with innocent folks. Attack!" The space around them filled with weapons fire as 20 human ships dove into battle against an enemy that had never been challenged before. For the first time in their history, the Devourers were about to learn what it meant to fight someone who fought back. The first human weapons hit the Devourer ships like hammers hitting glass. Commander HFY watched from his damaged bridge as bright explosions lit up the darkness of space. He had never seen weapons like these before. "What kind of weapons are those?" asked his science officer, a small alien with green skin. "I don't know," HFY replied, "but they're working." Captain Morrison stood on his bridge as his ship shook from enemy fire. His weapons officer, Lieutenant Danny Rodriguez, was a young man from Texas who loved his job. "Danny, hit them with everything we have," Morrison ordered. "Yes, sir," Danny replied with a big smile. He pressed buttons on his control panel, and the UES Defiance fired its main guns. These were not the clean energy weapons that aliens used. These were big metal bullets fired at incredible speed. When they hit the Devourer ships, they punched right through their armor. The Devourers had fought many battles, but they had never met weapons like these. Their ships were designed to absorb energy weapons and heal from damage, but the human weapons were different. They just kept tearing holes in everything they hit. Dr. Angela Price was the chief medical officer of the human fleet. She was a kind woman who had joined the military to help people. When the first wounded aliens were brought to her ship, she was amazed at what she saw. "These poor creatures," she said to her nurse, Julie Adams. "Look how badly they're hurt. An alien wounded, or much worse than any human would be with the same injuries." Dr. Price realized that these aliens gave up hope very easily. When they got hurt, they expected to die. "Julie, get me all the medical supplies we have," Dr. Price ordered. "These people need help, and we're going to save them." She began working on an alien soldier who had burns across his chest. In human medicine, these burns were serious, but not deadly. To the aliens, they were a death sentence. "You're going to be okay," Dr. Price told the alien as she worked. The alien looked at her with large, surprised eyes. No one had ever told him he would survive such wounds before. Back in the battle, the Devourers were learning something new about humans. These creatures were not getting scared as the fight went on. They were getting more excited. Sergeant Kevin Brown was a Marine who had been chosen to lead boarding parties. He was a big man with scars on his hands from many fights. When his captain asked for volunteers to board enemy ships, Kevin was the first to raise his hand. "Sir, my boys and I can take that ship," he told Captain Morrison. "Kevin, that's a suicide mission," Morrison replied. "Those ships are full of enemies." Kevin grinned. "Sir, we're Marines. Suicide missions are what we do for fun." Commander HFY watched in shock as small human ships flew directly at the Devourer vessels. The humans were actually trying to board enemy ships. This was something no species had ever attempted before. "Are they insane?" his science officer asked. I think they might be, HFY replied. But it's working. Kevin and his Marines blasted holes in the Devourer ship and flew inside wearing spacesuits and carrying big guns. The Devourers inside the ship had never fought enemies in close combat before. They were used to winning battles from far away, but humans were different. They had learned to fight on a world where everything wanted to kill them. They knew how to fight when things got scary and personal. Come on, you ugly bugs, Kevin shouted as he fired his weapon. Let's see what you're made of. The Marines moved through the enemy ship like they were having fun. Every time they found Devourers, they attacked without fear. The enemy creatures had never met anyone who enjoyed fighting this much. Meanwhile, engineer Ryan Cooper was working with alien survivors to fix their damaged ships. The aliens watched in amazement as Ryan used simple tools and basic materials to repair complex systems. How are you fixing that? Asked an alien engineer. That system requires precision molecular assembly. Ryan looked up from his work, his face covered in grease and sweat. Well, where I come from, we fix things with whatever we have. Sometimes the simple way works better than the fancy way. He had used metal tape, spare wire, and something he called good old-fashioned elbow grease to repair a system that alien engineers thought was impossible to fix. Not only did it work, but it was stronger than before. The alien engineer shook his head in wonder. Your people are very strange. Yeah, we get that a lot, Ryan replied with a laugh. As the battle continued, the Devourers began to realize they were in trouble. They had expected these new enemies to run away or die quickly. Instead, the humans seemed to get stronger the longer the fight went on. Pilot Amanda Taylor was flying her fighter ship between the big Devourer vessels, shooting at their weak spots. She was a young woman from California who had always loved flying fast. This is Taylor to all fighters, she called over the radio. Follow me. I found their main ship, and I'm going to ram it. Amanda, that's crazy, replied her squadron leader. You'll be killed. Maybe, Amanda said as she pushed her ship faster toward the enemy. But these aliens need our help, and sometimes you have to take risks to help people. She fired all her weapons at the command center of the biggest Devourer ship, then crashed her fighter right into it. The explosion was huge, and it damaged the enemy ship badly, but Amanda had ejected at the last second. Her escape pod was picked up by another human ship a few minutes later. When they opened the pod, she was grinning. Did you see that explosion? She asked. That was awesome. The aliens watching the battle could not understand what they were seeing. These humans were not just fighting, they were enjoying it. They got more dangerous when things got scary. Not less dangerous. For the first time in their long history, the Devourers were starting to feel something they had never felt before. They were starting to feel afraid. The battle had been going on for 2 hours when something amazing happened. The humans were not getting tired or scared. They were getting better at fighting. Dr. Elizabeth Carter was a scientist who studied alien life forms. Even in the middle of the battle, she was taking samples from destroyed Devourer ships and studying them. This is fascinating, she said to her assistant, while explosions lit up the space around them. These creatures are part machine and part living tissue. I've never seen anything like it. Her assistant, a young man named Bob, looked nervous. Dr. Carter, shouldn't we be hiding or something? There's a war going on. Elizabeth looked up from her microscope with bright, excited eyes. Hide? This is the discovery of a lifetime. We're learning about a completely new form of life. I'm not going to hide. Commander HFY was watching the human scientist work while battles raged around her ship. He could not understand how anyone could be curious about science when they might die at any moment. These humans are not normal, he told his crew. They do things that should be impossible. The real shock came when the Devourers attacked a group of alien refugee ships. These ships were full of families and children who had escaped from destroyed worlds. The Devourers always attacked the weak first because it was easier. But when the humans saw this, something changed in them. They became even more dangerous than before. Marine Colonel Steve Washington was leading a group of soldiers when he saw the refugee ships being attacked. Steve was a quiet man who rarely got angry, but when he saw innocent people in danger, his eyes turned cold. "All Marines, this is Washington," he said over the radio. "The enemy is attacking families and children. I want every single one of those bug ships destroyed. No prisoners. No mercy." The Marines had been fighting hard before, but now they fought like they were on fire. They moved through enemy ships like a storm, destroying everything in their path. The Devourers had never seen anything like it. Navigator Helen Roberts was controlling the battle from Admiral Clark's ship. She was a smart woman who thought of space battles like a game of chess. But when she saw the refugees being attacked, she stopped thinking like a chess player and started thinking like a mother. "Admiral, request permission to use the special weapons," she said. Admiral Clark nodded. "Permission granted. Protect those families." The humans had brought their most powerful weapons, but they had been saving them for emergencies. Now they used them all at once. The space around the refugee ships became a wall of fire and metal that nothing could pass through. An alien child on one of the refugee ships pressed her face against a window and watched the human ships fighting to protect her. She had never seen anyone fight so hard for people they didn't even know. "Mama, why are the humans helping us?" the little girl asked. Her mother hugged her close. "I don't know, little one, but I think they're very good people." Back on the human ships, the crew members were working together in ways that amazed the watching aliens. When Captain Morrison's ship was badly damaged, his crew didn't panic or give up. They just worked harder. Chief Communications Officer Patricia Green was doing 3 jobs at once. She was talking to all the human ships, learning alien languages, so she could talk to the refugees and coordinating attacks on enemy ships. Her brain was working so fast that the aliens thought she might be part computer. "Patricia, how are you doing all of that at the same time?" asked Dr. Hayes, who was still trying to understand alien languages. "I grew up with 5 brothers," Patricia replied while typing on 3 different keyboards. "If you can't multitask in my family, you don't eat dinner." Engineer Tony Martinez was fixing his ship's weapons while Devourer boarding parties were trying to break into his engine room. Most species would have run away or surrendered. Tony just kept working while shooting at enemies with one hand. "Hey, ugly!" he shouted at a Devourer trying to break down his door. "I'm trying to work here. Come back later." He finished fixing the weapons just as the door broke open. The ship's guns came back online and destroyed 2 enemy ships. Tony looked at the broken door and shook his head. "Now I have to fix that too," he said. Medic Julie Adams was treating wounded aliens while her ship was spinning and shaking from battle damage. She had tied herself to the medical table so she wouldn't fall down, but she kept working on her patients. "Hold still," she told a wounded alien soldier. "I know the ship is bouncing around, but I've got you." The alien looked at her with wonder. "How can you work like this? Aren't you afraid?" Julie smiled as she bandaged his wound. "Honey, I learned medicine in Detroit. If you can patch people up there, you can do it anywhere." Gunner Carl Johnson had been shot in the arm by a Devourer weapon, but he was still firing his guns. His left arm didn't work anymore, so he was using his right arm to operate controls that normally took 2 hands. "Carl, you need medical attention," his captain told him over the radio. "I'll get medical attention when all the bad guys are dead," Carl replied as he fired another shot. "These aliens are counting on us. The Devourers were starting to make mistakes. For millions of years, they had won every battle by making their enemies afraid. But these humans were not getting afraid. They were getting angry, especially when civilians were threatened. The Devourer hive mind had never experienced anything like this. Every time they thought they understood these humans, the humans did something impossible. They fixed things that couldn't be fixed. They fought when they should have run. They got stronger when they should have gotten weaker, but the biggest shock was still coming. The Devourers had one final trick that had never failed them before. They were about to release their queenship, the largest and most powerful vessel they had ever built. When it appeared on the human sensors, it was bigger than 5 human ships put together. It had weapons that could destroy planets and armor that had never been damaged. Admiral Clark looked at the massive enemy ship on her screen and smiled. "Well," she said to her crew, "I guess they're finally taking us seriously." The Devourer Queen ship was a monster. It was as big as a city and covered in weapons that could destroy entire fleets. When it appeared, even the human ships looked tiny next to it. Commander HFY felt his heart sink when he saw it. "It's over," he whispered. "That's their queen ship. Nothing can stop it." But Admiral Clark was looking at the massive enemy ship with the eyes of someone who had been fighting her entire life. She had seen big enemies before, and she knew that big didn't always mean unbeatable. "All ships, this is Admiral Clark," she said over the radio. "I know that thing looks scary, but remember what we're fighting for. There are families behind us who need our protection. That big ship is just a bigger target." Captain Morrison's ship, the UES Defiance, had been badly damaged in the fighting. Half his weapons were broken, his shields were gone, and there were holes in his hull. But when he heard the Admiral's words, he knew what he had to do. "Lisa, set a course directly for that queen ship," he told his second-in-command, Lieutenant. Commander Lisa Brooks looked at him with wide eyes. "Captain, that's suicide. We can't fight something that big." Morrison smiled. "We're not going to fight it, Lisa. We're going to ram it." The idea of ramming an enemy ship was something that horrified the watching aliens. In their culture, you never deliberately destroyed your own ship. It was wasteful and crazy. But humans were different. They had learned long ago that sometimes you had to sacrifice yourself to protect others. It was just part of being human. "All hands, this is the captain," Morrison announced to his crew. "We're going to fly straight into that queen ship. Anyone who wants to leave can take the escape pods. I won't think less of you." Nobody left. The entire crew stayed at their posts, ready to die with their captain if that's what it took to save the aliens. The UES Defiance turned and began flying directly toward the queen ship, firing all its remaining weapons. The massive enemy vessel shot back with guns that could destroy mountains. But Morrison's ship kept coming. Chief Communications Officer Patricia Green was working miracles from Admiral Clark's ship. She had figured out how to talk to all the different alien species at once, and she was coordinating a battle plan that involved everyone. "All human ships, concentrate fire on the queen ship's main weapons," she ordered. "All alien ships with working weapons, target the smaller escort vessels. Refugee ships, get behind our battle line." The aliens were amazed. This human woman was commanding a battle involving dozens of different species, and she was doing it while learning their languages in real-time. As the battle reached its peak, the humans showed the aliens something they had never seen before. When things got hopeless, humans didn't give up. They got creative. Engineer Tony Martinez had an idea. That was completely insane. His ship's main reactor was damaged and about to explode. Instead of trying to fix it, he decided to make it explode bigger. "Captain, I can turn our reactor into a bomb," he told his commander. "If we can get close enough to that queen ship, we can take out a big chunk of it. Tony, that will kill everyone on the ship, his captain replied. Maybe, Tony said, but it might save everyone else. Before anyone could stop him, Tony had rewired the reactor to explode in exactly 10 minutes. His ship began flying toward the Queen ship like a guided missile, but the humans weren't done being impossible yet. Dr. Angela Price had been studying the wounded Devourers that her medical teams had captured. She had discovered something important. Admiral, I know how to hurt them, she said over the radio. The Devourers are all connected by a psychic link. If we can damage their Queen's mind, it will hurt all of them. How do we damage a mind? Admiral Clark asked. With really loud noise. Dr. Price replied, I need all ships to broadcast on the same frequency at maximum power. It should be like screaming in their heads. The plan was crazy, but it was the kind of crazy that humans were good at. Every ship in the fleet began broadcasting. Static and noise as loudly as possible. The psychic scream hit the Devourer hive mind like a hammer. For the first time in their history, the Devourers felt pain that they couldn't understand. Their perfect unity was broken by the chaotic noise from the human ship's Captain Morrison's. Damaged ship was almost at the Queen ship when something unexpected happened. The massive enemy vessel's weapons stopped firing. The psychic attack had confused the Devourers so badly that they couldn't coordinate their defenses. This is our chance, Admiral Clark shouted. All ships attack now. The entire human fleet opened fire on the Queen ship at the same time. 20 ships' worth of weapons hit the massive vessel, and for the first time, it began to take real damage. Tony Martinez's ship reached the Queen ship just as his reactor exploded. The blast was so bright that it could be seen from other star systems. When the light faded, there was a huge hole in the side of the Queen ship, but Tony wasn't dead. At the last second, he had ejected in an escape pod, still holding his tools and grinning like a madman. Did you see that explosion? He radioed to the other ships. I told you it would work. Gunner Carl Johnson, still fighting with his wounded arm, managed to hit the Queen ship's main command center with a perfect shot. The massive vessel began to spin out of control. That's for shooting me, you ugly bug, he shouted. The Queen ship was dying, but it wasn't dead yet. It began to glow with a strange light as it prepared to use its final weapon. The aliens knew what this meant. It's going to self-destruct, Commander HFY said in horror. The explosion will destroy everything within 100,000 kilometers. But Admiral Clark was already moving. All ships, full speed away from the Queen ship. Cover the refugee vessels. The human ships formed a protective wall between the Queen ship and the aliens as everyone raced away from the coming explosion. They used their own bodies as shields, knowing that they might not survive what was coming. The Queen ship exploded with the force of a small star. The shockwave raced outward, destroying everything in its path. Several human ships were caught in the blast and destroyed instantly. But their sacrifice worked. The alien refugees survived, protected by the humans, who had given their lives for people they had never met. When the explosion finally faded, space was quiet. The Devourer fleet was gone, destroyed by their own Queen ship's final blast. The humans had won, but the cost had been high. Admiral Clark looked around at what remained of her fleet. She had started the battle with 20 ships. Now she had only 12 left, and most of those were badly damaged, but they had saved the aliens. Every refugee ship was still intact, and the Devourer threat was ended forever. This is Admiral Clark to all surviving ships, she said quietly. We did it. The civilians are safe. The space around the battle was quiet now. Pieces of destroyed ships floated in the darkness, and the surviving vessels moved slowly through the debris field. The great Devourer threat was over, but everyone was trying to understand what had just happened. Commander HFY stood on his bridge, looking out at the human ships. These strange vessels had saved his people, but he still couldn't understand how or why. "Commander," said his science officer, "the humans are sending small ships to help our wounded. They're also collecting survivors from the destroyed Devourer." "Vessels?" HFY was confused. "They're helping the Devourers too?" "Yes, sir. They seem to help everyone, even their enemies." Dr. Angela Price was leading the rescue efforts from her medical ship. She had teams working around the clock to save anyone they could find, whether they were human, alien, or even Devourer. "Doctor, why are we helping the creatures that tried to kill us?" asked one of her nurses. Angela looked up from the Devourer patient she was treating. "Because that's what doctors do. We help anyone who needs help. It doesn't matter what side they were on." The Devourer she was working on had never been treated with kindness before. Its entire species had lived by eating others and taking what they wanted. But this human was fixing its wounds and giving it medicine to stop the pain. Admiral Clark's ship, the U.S. Liberty, was holding together with emergency repairs and determination. She was meeting with representatives from all the alien species. They had saved. Ambassador Veltar of the Christic Union was a tall, elegant alien who spoke for many of the peaceful species. He had watched the entire battle and was still trying to process what he had seen. "Admiral Clark," he said in careful English, "on behalf of the Galactic Council, I want to thank you for what you have done. But I must ask, why did you help? You? You had never met us before. You gained nothing by fighting for us." Admiral Clark thought about the question. She was tired from the battle, and her uniform was torn and dirty, but her eyes were still strong. "Ambassador, where I come from, when someone calls for help, you help them. It's that simple. But you lost ships. You lost people. Some of your crew died to save strangers." "Yes," Admiral Clark replied, "and they died as heroes. That's what humans do. We protect people who can't protect themselves." The aliens were amazed by this answer. In their cultures, you only fought for your own people or for profit. Fighting for strangers was almost unknown. Captain Morrison, whose ship had somehow survived its suicide run, was helping to organize the relief efforts. His vessel was held together with metal tape and hope, but it was still flying. Dr. Peter Hayes, the language expert, was working with alien scholars to set up communication between all the different species. He had learned 17 alien languages during the battle and was already working on more. "This is incredible," he told his alien counterparts. "You have so many different cultures and ways of thinking. Humans have a lot to learn from you." The alien scholars were surprised. "But you saved us. Surely we should be learning from you." Peter smiled. "That's not how it works. We all have things to teach each other. That's what makes meeting new people so exciting." Meanwhile, the practical work of recovery was continuing. Engineer Ryan Cooper was helping alien repair crews fix their damaged ships. His simple, direct methods were working better than the aliens' complex technology. "I still don't understand how you do this," said an alien engineer as Ryan fixed a critical system with spare parts and creativity. "The secret is not to overthink it," Ryan replied. "Sometimes the simplest solution is the best solution." As the hours passed, more alien ships arrived in the area. Word of the battle had spread quickly through their communication networks. Species from across the galaxy came to see the humans who had defeated the Devourers. The aliens learned that humans came from what they called a death world. Earth was a planet where everything was dangerous. The weather could kill you, the animals could kill you, and even some of the plants could kill you. But instead of making humans weak, this had made them incredibly strong. "Your people evolved to survive anything," explained Commander HFY to Admiral Clark. That's why you can do things that seem impossible to us. Maybe, Admiral Clark replied, but I think it's more than that. We learned that the only way to survive on a dangerous world is to take care of each other. That's why we came to help you. The formal ceremonies began a few days later. The Galactic Council wanted to give humanity every honor they could think of. They offered advanced technology, star maps, trading rights, and membership in their alliance. Admiral Clark listened to all the offers politely. When the aliens finished, she asked a simple question. What can we do to help you rebuild what you lost? The aliens were stunned. They had expected humans to ask for rewards, not to offer more help. Ambassador Veltar spoke for all of them. Admiral, you have already done more than enough. You saved our lives. The job isn't finished, Admiral Clark replied. The Devourers are gone, but you're still hurt. Your worlds are still damaged. Your people are still scared. We want to help you heal, and that's exactly what happened. Human ships began patrolling alien space, protecting peaceful species from any remaining threats. Human doctors treated alien patients. Human engineers helped rebuild destroyed worlds, but the aliens helped too. They shared their knowledge of science and art. They taught humans about philosophy and history. They showed humans wonders of the galaxy that no human had ever imagined. Captain Morrison's ship, the U's Defiance, became the first human vessel to carry an alien crew member. Commander HFY asked to serve aboard the ship so he could learn human methods of defense. Why do you want to learn our ways? Morrison asked him. Because you taught us something important, HFY replied. Sometimes peace is not enough. Sometimes you have to be willing to fight for what is right. Dr. Angela Price established the first human-alien medical exchange program. Alien doctors came to learn human emergency medicine, while human doctors studied alien healing techniques. Young alien girl who had watched the battle from the refugee ship grew up to become an ambassador. She spent her life building bridges between humans and aliens, always remembering the day that strangers had risked everything to save her. Years later, when other threats appeared in the galaxy, they were met by joint human-alien fleets. The peaceful species had learned to defend themselves, while humans had learned the value of working together with others. The message went out across the galaxy in dozens of languages, under human protection. 3 simple words that meant safety for anyone who needed help. But the humans preferred a different message, one they taught to all their alien friends. We're all in this together. And in the vast darkness of space, that simple truth lit up the stars with hope.